Hello everyone, I'm back with part 3. So this will be the final part of this review. So I just want to give like a recap and also add some details along with it. So basically with Metropolis, it's basically like the have and the have-nots. Pretty much you have the elite who's living at the top in these skyscrapers in this beautiful city, and they're enjoying the high life, the good life, luxury, and whatever they want at their beck and call, I guess you would say. Then you have the lower caste people, the poor working people who are literally working themselves to death and getting slaughtered pretty much slowly but surely by working themselves to death. And they're also being thrown in this Moloch machine or whatever, a Moloch type of machine. And that's very all this stuff is very biblical, or talking about around the times of the biblical times, right? And we have the Tower of Babel, which represents like all of like it was basically destroyed because everyone was trying to just, build all the way to the top. Different nations were trying to just, everybody was trying to be included this Tower of Babel, right? And basically it had to be destroyed because it got to the point where no one could communicate with each other, right? So everything was just, if you go so high, eventually something's going to collapse. Think of Jenga, right? When you build all this stuff, like you got all this big tower, and then next to you pull one piece and poof, it could just destroy everything. So pretty much and it's in a metropolis, so you have that diversity, cultural diversity, especially, and just diversity when it comes to classes of people, lower class, upper class, middle class. But if you notice, like the rich people, if you've seen this movie, if not, I'm telling you now, they're pretty much like at the top. They live like the high life, literally, and it's like heaven and hell, pretty much. Like they're in heaven, and then like the lower class people feel like they're in hell. And that's crazy because that scientist Rotwang, or whatever his name was, his true love name was Hel, Hel, right? And that represents, like I said before, in Norse mythology, the goddess of the underworld and death. And basically Maria also end up being like, because in the beginning of the movie she was pretty much like this Madonna slash Sophia type of character, right? And she had these group of children with her, I think a group of boys or something, or children, and she brought them up to pretty much like the city where people live good. And it's almost given like that Garden of Eden effect. And she met Feder, and Feder basically had a liking for her. He became like, I want to say not, I want to say like infatuated in her because he was attracted to her energy. But then when I realized that she actually looked like his mother, I believe, yeah, that was his mother. Hell actually was his mother. Because she married his father and got pregnant with him, and Hell was also Rotwing's lover at first, but she left him to go to Fredersen, and she died giving birth to Freder. Freder is also known as the mediator, which is that Messiah energy. Once again, I want to point out to that Jesus or Christ type of energy, and he was brought to bring like the rich and the poor together and show that no one is different from anyone. Just because you have more money doesn't mean that you're better than the poor people, right? So everyone is created equal, but at that time there was this lack of equality. There was inequality with the people who were upper class versus the lower class. The lower class basically felt like they were in hell on earth, literally, okay? While the upper class had no worries. They go around, they have their parties or whatever, playing sports, enjoying, festivities, and everything was all good, while pretty much the poor people were getting thrown in a Moloch machine and treated like crap, right? Like they were very how would I say, expendable, so to speak. So it was very hard. It was a harsh reality. And also you had this situation with I would say like formation and destruction. Like, yes, this beautiful city was formed, but guess what? Off the backs of very poor people who were enslaved. They were treated like crap, and they basically, their lives didn't even matter. It's like they were pretty much like treated like dogs, or worse than stray dogs on the street. So yeah, the city was, it was built and it was made beautiful by, you know, pretty much the expense of somebody else or other people's lives. And the elite weren't getting their hands dirty, and they were profiting, making all this money while they gave them very little to live off of. And basically, like I said, they sacrificed those people literally, okay, physically and literally, you know, it was pretty messed up. So yeah, and it definitely impacted the society overall. And you have those elite people. And also it was about, okay, now since we got this scientist coming up with this robot, maybe this is going to help us out going forward. We could replace these people because they're eventually going to probably die before they even get a job done, completed. From what I was picking on, like I believe that's what they picking up on. That's what they were thinking. Like, okay, let's do the robot thing. Let's do the technological advancement thing. So they were looking forward to that and bringing all these machines, and they figured they were going to be more efficient. They weren't going to complain as much or whatever, because when you're dealing with people, people have needs, and a robot may not have that same amount of needs as a human being. So they basically dehumanize these people. Okay, they dehumanized them. They treated them worse than dirt at the bottom of their shoes, and they profit. And it shows that even in the biblical times it was like that with the Hebrews or Israelites. They were basically help build the pyramids and cities and stuff in Egypt, while the pharaohs and the upper class people basically, they were slaves to them. The Hebrews slash Israelites were slaves to them, to the Egyptian people. And it's it's almost like, and then you have to think about the destruction, right? When there's so much inequality, wrongdoings, imbalances, there's going to be some destruction. And that's what happened in this movie. We all, like I said, we know what happened to the Tower of Babel. It had to be destroyed because no one could communicate with each other. Everyone's trying to build, and they want this, you know, try to be in this like utopia. But what are you going to do when like everyone's not going to be at the top? Like, you can't communicate. Nobody's better than anybody, where you about to be looking down on somebody. You know, even a bird got to come down and take a drink and get some water, peck their beak in the ground and get some worms and food or whatever. So, yeah, no one is better than anyone. And that's what I took from this. I don't care what type of money you have, what type of classes or elitist mindset you have. You're no better than anybody, and you can be brought down or humbled very quickly. Um Everyone is God's people. It doesn't matter how much money you got, where you're from, if you're rich, poor, if you're whatever, you know, male, female, or whatever gender you identify as, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Everyone is seen as being created equal when you are coming from I would say not just a religious but spiritual standpoint as well. And if you believe in a higher being, divine source, God, the creator, however you want to put it. But yeah, that's what I took from this. And sometimes you can't put all that faith in technology, because that may not be 100% either. You know, you got to think humans are creating these machines, and they could turn against us. That's something to think about. All right, so thank you so much. I hope y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all day. And again, subscribe, share my videos and this content specifically if you really like what I had to share. And just know that when something comes up, it must come down. So I also took that in consideration too. It could be lonely at the top, but also it could be lonely at the bottom too. So that's why we all need to be on the same playing field pretty much, you know. No, people just can't live high in the sky and look down on others. That's not fair, right? So we're all in this together to work together as human beings, not just yeah, you want to focus on helping your community depending on where, especially if you're a person of color. I get that, but we're all human and we should all be helping each other as well. Okay. All right. Peace. Y'all stay good. Stay blessed.